Hey guys, so I came across this documentary called Death on a Factory Farm. It's the story of an undercover investigator called Pete, who documents one of the worst cases of animal cruelty that he's ever seen on the Wiles hog farm, where they are taking lame hogs outside, wrapping a chain around their neck and hanging them. And there's a whole host of other issues with the farm, but that's kind of like the standout act of animal torture. And I know what you're thinking, I've seen a bunch of animal torture footage on the likes of Dominion and Earthlings and Land of Hope and Glory, but this documentary has additional levels to it because he ends up taking them to court, and it's got lots of really interesting and educational stuff in it. And I watched this film with my friend Ryuji, who's also got a YouTube channel called Peace by Vegan. He's been on this channel before. Definitely go check him out and give him a subscription. So in this video, there's a mixture between the highlights from the film that I think are the most important parts, as well as commentary from me and Ryuji discussing the film. And when we filmed this, we ended up discussing for like over an hour, not just about the film, but we went on to veganism and even wild animal suffering. So on my second channel, Humane Hangouts, where I put the podcast, I'm going to put the full discussion, which is about an hour and a half. But this is going to be the highlights that are focused on the actual film because we went off on many tangents. Yeah, Ryuji and I both found this film very, very interesting. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll leave you with the rest of the video. Was it more interesting than you expected it to be?
Yeah, it really was.
Basically, their operation is to birth and raise the pigs, then send them off to become hogs ready for slaughter.
They use gestation crates and farrowing crates, just like most other hog farms in America.
It's this little wheeled bin with a scale on it to weigh them, and it says weigh pig on the side. The way to do it that they decided was to grab them by their legs or their ears sometimes and just throw them. You can hear them screaming.
One thing that actually I thought was really thought-provoking at the beginning when they're in the farm and it's showing footage of the investigation and they're thumping the pigs. So they were thumping these pigs who were not growing fast enough or who were deformed or who they couldn't make money out of, so that they had to get rid of them somehow.
So one day, sure enough, we were throwing pigs into a school bus to move them to a different site, and we had a couple pigs that were junk pigs.
We got some skinnies in here, skinny. Those
pigs aren't even close to being...
What? This one is?
Those two are, yes. Why does it seem so hairy?
I don't know. You're the one that's been doing it since you were a little kid.
Joe Wiles was the oldest son, and he worked at the farm the most out of anyone at the family.
Now, what's wrong with him?
Look at him. Look at his leg. Look at him.
He's fucked up, dude.
That's my pet. That's my new pet. Yep, that's my new pet. I ain't fucking. Why would I take a stupid little kid? You think I'm serious? Man, that's kind of cool, man.
Oh shit, he did it in one hit? Kind of. Almost did it in one hit. Oh, okay. One of the workers made a complaint and said he thinks it's cruel to do that. So Joe's solution to that was to take the next piglet out that had to die out into the yard and bash its skull in with a hammer. What's he doing?
Going to kill that one. He's going to bash its head in.
Why not do it here?
I don't know, that's fucked up. I don't know. I hate seeing it. Because they do it in such a mean way.
What else you gonna do?
Shoot the motherfucker.
Oh, put a bullet in them? Yeah.
I'd rather do that.
Yeah, why don't they do that?
Cheaper to do it this way. That's my ass. Sick fucker.
No fire life.
Well, I'm fucking with you, Joe. You think I'm serious? I don't give a shit less. Because I hate pigs.
So do I.
I hate them bad. They're fucking illegal.
And then one of the guys there actually says, you know, I hate seeing this, which I thought was really interesting. But then I don't know if it's the same guy, but you hear a voice, because I couldn't keep track of like who was who, but someone also says, yeah, do you really think I care? Like, come on, you can't be serious. I hate pigs. I hate pigs. And they seem so intent on saying that.
I noticed the same thing. It was super interesting. It was the same guy. I think the son of the owner. So he leaves. He comes back, and then you're right. That guy is then saying, "You think I give a damn? I don't care about pigs. I hate pigs." And it's like, what happened there? Why is that difference? Is it that there's some kind of cultural pressure within that place to not care? Or,
Yeah.
bro, I'm going to bring out the toxic masculinity.
It's like the level 10 of like, I don't cry, bro.
One day, for some reason that probably I'll never know, they decide that Joe Wiles is going to round up all the employees, including myself, and we're then going to start hanging hogs. Then they would immediately put a chain around their necks, raise up the front loader, and hang them to death. And it would take about 4 to 5 minutes for them to stop kicking and thrashing. And everyone would kind of stop working, just stand there and watch it. It's definitely one of the most cruel things that I've ever done in my life. And it was something that I will never forget.
The evidence is going to show that Joe Wiles and Dusty Stroud were dragging pigs, putting them on a forklift, raising them up, putting a chain around the neck, and were hanging the pigs. And that's the count of torturing an animal.
No.
Yes, sir.
Fair to say that when you went onto the Wiles property, your sole purpose was to obtain footage of the Wiles operation.
Yes, sir.
And obviously you did that without their permission or consent.
Yes, sir.
Did it bother you that you were telling lies to people?
Well, it bothers me as much as...
My question is, did it bother you that you were lying to people?
Yes, sir. At times.
And you know that's not a good thing to do, to lie, to misrepresent.
Now, did you have a mustache and a beard when you were working out on the farm?
Yes, sir, but different from this.
Different from this? Is this a makeup
Yes, sir.
setup? So this is not a real mustache you're wearing, is it?
No, sir.
This is not a real beard you're wearing?
No, sir.
So you're traveling in a disguise today as you sit here?
Well, there is a video camera filming me, sir, so yes, sir.
We hear from a guy who says that, yeah, by golly, he's an undercover agent for the animal rights groups. He's done it 7 times. Comes in here with a fake beard and goatee.
You see this like horrible thing of this pig being hanged, and then they bring on the undercover investigator, and they're like, does it bother you that you lied like that?
Yeah,
you
yeah,
think lying is okay?
That was hilarious. Like, I mean, yeah, that was incredible.
It's like, let's have some perspective.
They only did a few things in order to incriminate the investigator, and one of the things was to really attack his character. And even they repeat that towards the end, where they say, this guy walks in here, films all this stuff, and did it seem to bother him? Not even a little bit. Like that was incredible.
What was even funnier is when they're like, he comes in here with a fake beard and a goatee. And to be fair, what the hell was that thing? That looked terrible.
That was like Superman level disguise, right? that was like Clark Kent, like, put on the glasses.
Yeah.
They won't recognize me now.
Oh man.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes, sir.
You're also aware of the means that my client was using out there on the Wiles farm, correct?
Yes?
I want to ask you if you have an opinion as to whether or not that means of euthanization is torture or animal cruelty. Do you have that opinion?
Yes, sir.
What is that opinion?
My opinion is that the method of using asphyxia via strangulation, as was seen, that's not torture. The brain may already be stopping activity, but the oxygenation of the blood that's still in the body is providing for muscle activity. And so the animal can be appearing to be flailing around, even though the brain is dead.
Is it possible for this movement to last for some 4, 5, or 6 minutes?
Easily several minutes, yes, sir.
And with regard to the carrying and conveying of animals, did the movement of those pigs meet the definition of carrying or conveying in a cruel or an inhumane manner?
No, sir.
Did the movement meet the definition of carrying in a humane and proper manner?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever been involved providing euthanasia, as according to this booklet?
Am I providing euthanasia to farms?
Yeah.
I do that on occasion, yes, sir.
And what method do you use? I'm just curious.
If I'm collecting tissues from pigs, I choose to use the injection method.
I'm going to ask you to look at this clip real quick. Does that pig appear to be suffering?
I don't know whether it's suffering or not.
Well, you're here testifying as an expert. Is that pig suffering?
Tell me what the pig was before it came to this state.
It's not my question to you, sir. You're watching that video.
Objection. Overruled, Counselor.
You're watching this video, sir. You saw that pig being hung and that pig being struggling. Was that pig suffering?
I can't determine if it was suffering because we just can't tell very easily on that definition.
Is that a proper method of providing euthanasia?
If it is accomplishing asphyxia in a very short time period, yes, sir.
Just from what you observed, was that proper manner to provide euthanasia?
Objection. Counsel, overruled. You've had plenty of latitude, counsel, to ask your questions. The same is being accorded to the state in cross-examining your witness.
Understood. Thank you, Your Honor.
Restate your question.
Yes, sir. Is that a proper manner of euthanasia?
Yes, sir.
It was that animal suffering?
I don't think it was.
You don't think what we just watched, that animal was suffering?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you think that's the best method to minimize the pain for that animal?
In this case, it very well might be.
Yes or no? That's all I'm asking you, sir. There wasn't a better way than that?
I don't know what the status of the animal was prior to it going to there.
Then how can you give an expert opinion today? At least I thought I heard you on direct examination say this is a proper way to provide euthanasia.
I did, sir, in a general sense, not specifically on this animal because I do not know this animal's status.
Okay, so you cannot provide this court an expert opinion regarding whether this was the proper manner to provide euthanasia on this animal as you see in this footage. Is that my understanding, sir?
On this specific
Yes,
animal? Yes, sir.
Fair enough. Lastly, the court asked Dr. Sanders whether tossing these pigs from crate to crate was animal cruelty. Dr. Sanders' opinion, as I recall yesterday, is that it is animal cruelty. Do you agree with that opinion?
Not according to the definition I had, that cruelty it doesn't meet that in my opinion.
Your opinion. Thank you for your opinions.
Talk about the movement of the pigs on the farm. In your way of thinking, is that torture?
I wouldn't do it if it were torture. This is my only income. If I lost pig 1 during a weaning, it would be too many. These pigs have a value. It's the only value. The only way I make a living is moving these pigs on through. That pig is not going to be abused.
With that, Your Honor, nothing further this witness.
Now, you had a veterinarian, correct?
I have a veterinarian.
All right. Are you aware that she indicated to the Humane Society that she's never seen a pig hung like what was going on in your farm in 21 years?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Did you ever discuss with this veterinarian euthanasia procedures?
No.
You didn't think that was important?
I didn't think it was important.
You, at this point, don't even mention that the animals are any consideration, do you?
Let me set the scene.
No, you have to answer the question, sir. In this statement that you gave, it does not mention in your plan or your process any consideration of the animals, does it?
No.
It only talks about we want to hang them like they do people in Utah or Washington, correct?
I was trying to make it so the layman could understand it.
Do you have any concerns for the animals when you run
Yes,
this
they're
farm?
my only income.
But do you have any concerns for them? The pain that they're suffering or anything like that?
My pigs aren't suffering pain, sir.
We've literally just seen one being hanged, bro.
Nothing but the whole truth.
They're not suffering pain?
No.
When we watched that pig being hung, you don't think that pig was suffering in any way, shape, or form?
Sir.
Overruled.
Do you agree that that animal was suffering as that animal was being hung?
We euthanize our animals in the most efficient and painless way that we can.
I'm going to ask you that question again. Was that animal suffering, sir?
Have you ever seen a pig
Not my
shot?
question to you. Was that animal suffering?
Not to my knowledge.
I don't have anything further.
The prosecutor is asking him about whether the animal's being tortured, and the guy is just talking about his the monetary value of the pig rather than whether the actual pig actually has any intrinsic moral worth, which I thought was interesting.
It's so interesting how he doesn't even seem to be self-aware of that, because he asks him so do you care about the pigs? And he's like, of course I do. They're my only means of income.
Yes, yeah. But I think he even
again.
explicitly said. I think he even explicitly said that's the only value they have.
Yeah, he probably said something like that, but he's asked twice in a row, I remember.
Yeah,
and twice in a row he says, of course I care about them. They're my only means of income. Which is just it is so wild to see that he's not even self-aware about how that would come across. I guess the way to really picture that is to imagine if someone said that about a dog. Do you care about your dogs? Well, of course, they're my only means of income. Because most people, you ask them, do you care about your dogs? Of course, they're like family to me. Of course they do, because they suffer.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated. The court has reviewed both last evening and in the interim from the time we completed our closing arguments, the exhibits, including some other sections of the video, and I make the following decisions. As to the case against Kenneth Wiles, CRB 2007-10086, to the offense of cruelty to animals by not providing appropriate food and water, the court finds the defendant is not guilty of that offense as charged. As to the offenses against Joe Wiles, CRB 2007-1, cruelty to animals by improperly carrying or transporting said animals, the court finds the defendant is guilty of that offense as charged. As to the account in the same complaint, cruelty to animals by torture, the court finds the defendant is not guilty of that offense as charged. As to the count against Dusty Stroud, that being the remaining count of violation of cruelty to animals by torture, the court finds the defendant is not guilty of that offense as charged. Clearly, to my opinion, there's no easy, safe, economical way to euthanize an adult hog, and it's a difficult decision for the farmers to make. Disposing of the hog that was in the video was an attempt to alleviate pain and an animal that could not be saved. I find personally distasteful or offensive that in fact was done, but it seems that even the experts have no better way to offer, because it's totally unrealistic to have a vet come out all the time and administer chemicals, which seems to be the best way, but also the most expensive way to dispose of an animal. Mr. Wiles, is there anything that you would like to say?
No, Your Honor.
Sentence to the court will be a fine of $250 in costs. The defendant is placed on a community control sanction of basic probation for the period of 1 year, that he shall undergo a training program on humane handling and transporting of farm animals Obviously, there needs to be some review and reformulation of policies in order to avoid this in the future. Anything further from either counsel?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
That'll be all.
Most of us don't witness any kind of death. You know, we don't realize the trauma that goes on with animals or even people dying, and that it often is, it's not a pretty sight, no matter how humanely it's administered. I'm glad that the Wilds can continue to produce pork and that I can go home and enjoy a good pork loin sandwich.
They're found not guilty of animal cruelty when it comes to the hanging of the pigs. And that really surprised me when I saw that. As a film, if you're going to make that film, like, they have to be found guilty at the end. Otherwise, it wouldn't really make sense narratively. And it was really surprising that in real life, they were found not guilty, despite the fact that it's so clear that what was happening was
unbelievable. It's like, so I think it's so sad that like they were found not guilty on that was deemed okay. In a way, it seems like it's even more damning of the meat industry, though, right? It shows how the law is actually allowing for like the incredibly unethical stuff that we've seen in that it shows how little, how unsatisfactory the legal protection is for animals, that's actually deemed okay. Or was it more interesting than you expected it to be?
Yeah, it really was. I thought that was really, really informative. This is the kind of film that I find really useful as an advocate for animals. Like, if you want to make a case for animals, this is the kind of thing that I feel is very, very useful to... this is the kind of film that I feel is very useful to watch if you want to speak up for animals or be able to make a case for them. Because it shows first what happens in a typical farm in more detail than most other investigations that I've seen. So that's really informative on the process. And it really shows the suffering of the animals more so than other investigations I've seen. And it really, you feel the distress of the animals, not just physically, but also emotionally. So for example, when they're picking up the pigs and throwing them in the bin to wheel them to the school bus, which they're using a school bus to transport these pigs, which that was incredible. But you hear the piglets scream, for example, which is something that's I haven't really heard. I've seen that process before. So in Dominion, there's a shot, but it's like from a GoPro up on the ceiling or something, where you see a worker going in with this trolley and throwing the pigs inside. But that doesn't really convey the suffering of the piglets the way that this film does, where it's more up close and you hear the sound and you hear them screaming. So in that sense, you see a lot of the process, and you see also how the workers talk about what they're doing. So there's some terminology that I found interesting that's very telling of how they see the animal. So for example, when the guy walks by the gestation crates and he says, "Oh, all these are pregnant." Or another one is the pigs that they killed, they call them junk pigs. So which means to them they have no monetary value. They can't make any money out of them. So they call them junk pigs. So there's a lot of stuff like that was really telling of how these people see those animals, and it was really informative on the entire process. But also I think it's really the film was really informative when it comes to exploring how the cruelty that happens on factory farms is regarded by our legal system, and how much, like, how far that is from most people's moral intuition. I thought that was very, very interesting, because I think to most people who somewhat would claim that they care about animals, if they saw the footage that this guy recorded, they would be like, this is absolutely horrible. But what is revealed through the film is that this is seen as completely normal. And there are even several farmers in the film who say, well, this is just what happens. So I think it shows the contrast between what we think is morally acceptable and what happens on farms and is considered normal, and also like how what is considered, because this is what people will say, like people maybe think that if something is legal, it must be okay. Like everything that we do to animals is legal, therefore it can't be that bad. And I think this film really exposes how that is so far from reality.